Hello and welcome. I'm Kyle. I'm a student at the University of Cincinnati in the Information Technology program, and I'm in senior design currently. So this is my project. This is the first of 10 videos on beginning to use Backtrack 5R3 and kind of digging into the pen testing tools available to us. So in this video, we're going to go over installing Nessus, usage of Nessus, and then also the usage of Nmap. And then we're going to scan a target with both of these tools. So I guess let's get into it. Before we do anything though, you need to be sure that you have Adobe Flash installed on your Backtrack 5R3 box. You can either use the lab files provided for VMware Workstation, or you can also go and find out how to do that yourself. And also you'll want to register for a home feed activation code on the Tenable website for Nessus. This will give you updated scanning results and that sort of thing. So be sure you have that available and ready as we're going through this. And with that, let's get right into it. So also, now that I think about it, be sure that you are connected to the internet. If you are on a private network in VMware Workstation, be sure that you're connected to the internet, at least for this step. Whenever we, begin scanning and all of that, we're of course going to disconnect from the internet because it's illegal to scan other computers without their permission. So, that being said, go ahead and open up the terminal on your Backtrack 5R3 box and go ahead and type apt-get install Nessus. Now for me it looks like it's already installed to the newest version. That might be the case with all Backtrack 5R3 boxes. In case it's not and you get something different, don't worry about it, as long as Nessus is installed. And then after that, go ahead and type this command, and this will register your activation code. So I'm going to type in my activation code, and I'm probably going to blur it out for the video. But here you want to enter your own activation code. Of course, I accidentally misspelled one of the commands here. And it will begin installing the latest plugins for this installation of Nessus. So this could take a while. I may, cut this section out if it takes too long, and then we can kind of get back into it once it's finished installing all of the plugins. Okay, so it looks like it's installed all of the plugins by now. And next we need to add a user. So and it will ask for a username and password. So you can enter anything here. I'm just going to enter a simple admin and password, just so I remember it. And you can obviously, you'll want this to be an admin user since this is just a lab. And here we're going to leave the rule set empty for now. So just enter a blank line. It will ask if it's okay, click yes, and then you're good to go. And then you need to start Nessus. Now you can actually do this from the applications menu at the top of the screen in Backtrack 5R3, and it'll do it automatically for you, so you don't have to always enter that command. And then it should be starting. At this point, go ahead and open the browser. So we're going to use Firefox. Starting. Okay. And enter in So this is the port that it runs on by default. It's going to ask you if you understand the risks, all that. Go ahead and add the exception. Of course. There you go. So you have to maybe enable plugins and all of that for Firefox, like I had to do there, it looks like. So then go ahead and enter your admin and password, log in, which, by the way, that combination is obviously not recommended, but this is a lab, so it's okay. It's not like, you know, we have a lot of information to hide here on this box or something like that. Click OK. And now you have installed Nessus, and here is where you will kind of conduct all of your scans and that sort of thing. So if you went to scans, you could add a new scan, and we'll get into that very shortly, actually in just a moment. So before we go about doing some Nessus scans, we need to do a few things. First, we're going to simply increase the resolution on the system. And the reason for that is because it doesn't look like Nessus has the ability to scroll within a VM left or right or up or down, and we don't want to miss any of the options that we're going to take a look at. The second thing that we'll need to do is disconnect ourselves from the internet, so we don't scan any targets that are on my network, for example, or on your network. And the third thing that we will want to do is use Nmap. We're going to use Nmap to find a few systems that we have already set up within VMware to scan, and we're going to kind of find their IP addresses, find information about the system that we can kind of go off of for our Nessus scan. So first things first, let's go ahead and increase our resolution. So go to System Preferences and then click Monitors. And we're just going to increase it slightly. Click Apply. Okay, going to keep this. I'm going to pause the video for a moment so I can kind of resize. Okay. Looks like we're good to go. Alright, and now we need to shut down our box so we can remove ourselves from the network. Okay, alright, now that we have shut down the machine, let's go to Edit Virtual Machine Settings, and we are going to select Network Adapter, and we're going to put that on VMnet 1. This way it's a private network and it doesn't interfere with any other traffic, and we're not doing anything illegal there. So I'm also actually going to push the memory up a tad, just to give it a little more speed. And then also under our Windows machine, let me make sure that that's on the right network. No, it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down as well. Alright, now that that is shut down, let's go ahead and do the very same thing to our Windows box. Okay. And we are going to power that on. And we can power on our Backtrack 5 box as well. Okay, so as they're powering on, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. Okay. Looks like it's still loading here. And this one's loaded. Okay. Okay, so now that it is loaded, go ahead and log in with the default password, root and tor. And go ahead and do start X, so it starts the GUI. Hello and welcome back. This is the second video out of 2 for the Lab 1. And in this video we're going to be going over some Nmap scans as well as using Nessus and scanning with that. So, that being said, let's get right into it. Go ahead and open up the terminal. And what we're going to do is, first and foremost, let's do nmap-h, and we can take a look at some of the options here. So obviously there's a ton of options, and I'm not going to go into them all. In fact, I'm only going to go into a few. So first and foremost, I want to point out scan techniques here. These are all the different scanning techniques that are available. Notice that for all of them, with the exception of this FTP bounce scan, they begin with a lowercase s followed by an uppercase character, usually the first letter of the type of scan that it is. So for example, for a SYN scan, it's lowercase s, uppercase s. And also that you can specify a port range if you'd like to. This is obviously recommended if you know that a certain service is open and you want to scan on the most popular port for that service. Of course, that can be changed by the administrator, but it's always worth a shot. And also this is a notable option here is enable OS detection, and this is particularly useful for us. So we're going to go ahead and run basically the default scan. So we're going to do nmap-v, that makes it verbose, and this will kind of show us what's going on with everything as it's scanning. We're going to do -ss. This is the SYN scan, but I think if we left that off, it should default to a SYN scan. It's a relatively stealthy scan, and it is obviously for good reason. It's the default. And I'm going to type -o as well for OS detection. Now here we want to enter our IP address. Now what I'm entering now is the IP address that I know that this network is on because of my VMware settings. For you it could be different, so feel free to do an ifconfig and check out what network you're on. And again, this would be slightly different if you're actually pen testing, but we're going through some examples with the tools. So let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. So notice it's showing these scans for each of these IP addresses in the range that we entered. Okay, and this is the result. It looks like it's printing a result. So first and foremost, this is, it looks like it's still printing. Okay, now it's completed. Okay, so coming back up here, this is the result for, it looks like for 192.168.1.1. So this is probably the VMware router that sort of is between all of these VMware stations. And that's probably why it can't, guess. It looks like it says it's trying to guess the operating system, and there isn't one. So that's why it's not really getting a whole lot there. Okay, so this one, it looks like this is a Windows XP system. Tells us some of the ports that are open here, and it tells us how many hops away, and a few little bits of information as well. And then further down, let's see. So it looks like it found something else here. So perhaps this is, or 192.168.1.138 is our, yeah, it looks like it's a Linux box. Then this is our Ubuntu box. So notice that I also brought up an Ubuntu box, and that is also on VM Net 1. And the reason I did this is for one of these scans that we were going to do. Actually, for two of them. And so these are kind of, again, it doesn't really give us a lot of information on that, but that's okay. We know that it's there. So the SynScan is relatively stealthy, but at the same time, most IDSs are configured to detect that, obviously, for good reason, since it's the default scan on Nmap and that sort of thing. So next, we're going to take a look at a stealthy scan, or a stealth scan rather, is sort of what it's referred to as. And any of these right here, TCP null fin and Xmas scans, are considered more stealthy than the typical SYN scan. Now what these scans do is they kind of exploit a certain loophole in certain operating systems that are compliant with a certain RFC text that states that any packet not containing a SYN, reset, or acknowledge bit will return a reset if the port is closed and no response at all if it's open. So, for example, this will not work on Windows. They've kind of like patched that sort of, or it doesn't register. It will just return that they're all closed because it returns a reset bit. Now, it will work on most Linux boxes and that sort of thing, so that's why we brought up our Ubuntu box to see if that works. So, we're going to go ahead and try the null scan. Actually, we're just going to do this. Same exact scan, except we're going to do null, and this is the option for that. So I'm going to go ahead and pause while this is running to save some time. Okay, let's take a look. Alright, see, here it looks like it's found our Linux box. Doesn't look like it was a very successful scan, given that it only sees as one port as open, but it says it's filtered. And again, it doesn't give us specific OS details, but we kind of know what it is here in this scenario. And as expected, it says that all 1,000 scanned ports on our XP box are closed. So just as we kind of had expected, or rather, whichever one of these is the XP box. And same thing with our router, obviously, which isn't really relevant in this case. So that's how to do a stealth scan. And obviously you would want to use these in different scenarios. You don't just go and throw any scan out at a system. We're just kind of going over how to use Nmap. So finally, I wanted to go over zombie scans, or idle scans as they're also known. Unfortunately, this scan isn't going to work for us using VMware because what's required of it is to have an idle machine. Now this can be anything. This can be even a printer, something that doesn't receive really any network traffic very frequently. And the reason for that is because what it does is it creates a packet based upon the IP ID that Nmap will grab from this idle machine, and as a result, it will forge a packet and send it to the machine that we are trying to scan. And what will happen is it will find all of the ports that are open from the idle computer or system rather. It's a beautiful scan, and it's the most blind to my knowledge as far as stealth and that sort of thing, because you aren't really putting your computer at risk because you're not putting your IP address out there to the system you're trying to scan. So we can go over how to use it. If you noticed above, I've already tried a few times, but the XP machine and the Ubuntu machine are not idle, and I don't think that they can be idle on VMware because of how often the VMware will kind of ping to check IP addresses using VMnet, unfortunately. But how to use it, you would go and you would use obviously the command nmap, and the scan is -SI for idle, and you would enter the zombie host first. So this could be a host name or an IP address, obviously, in any of these scenarios. And then the victim, and then you could press enter. And notice it says warning. Many people use the -PM with idle scan to prevent pings from their true IP. But on the other hand, timing info and Nmap gains from pings can allow for faster and more reliable scans. So it's kind of a give and take. But I don't know if you've noticed here, it says it's not really working. Kind of no matter what I try. I tried to use various zombies, but I just kind of wanted to let you know about that scan, because it is probably the most complex scan that Nmap offers. So next we are going to do some Nessus vulnerability scanning. Of course, we want to go ahead and go to Applications, backtrack, Vulnerability Assessment, Vulnerability Scanners, Nessus, and we need to start Nessus if it's not already started. Once that's finished, go ahead and exit the terminal and open Firefox. Okay, so it's saying like this is embarrassing or whatever. Now go to your local host, and notice it already has the port number there for Nessus. And we showed how to get Nessus running, up and running in the last video to prepare us for this. And so it should initialize and then let us log in. Alright, so let's go ahead and log in. Admin password. Click OK. So as you can see, there is a few options on the top. We're going to go to policies, and these are the default policies that Nessus gives us, and these will accomplish a lot in and of themselves. But if you wanted to add your own policy, you can click add, and you can name it whatever you like. And notice the port scanners on the side here. You can choose what type of scan that you would want, or if you wanted to do all of them, you could do that as well. And notice whenever you hover over each of these options, it kind of tells you what they do. So if you're curious, you can come in here and check out all of these, because this can get really granular, and there's a lot of options within this tool. So go ahead and click credentials. Notice that you can enter Windows credentials, SSH credentials, Kerberos credentials, or even clear text protocols. And these will give you a lot more results if you have them. So feel free to use them as well. Now plugins, this kind of shows us what all we will be testing against within this policy. So if you wanted to only test against like Windows, for example, you could disable all and then click Windows only. And this kind of tests for all of these different exploits on Windows and that sort of thing. So, and there's the preferences. So you can this is where it gets really granular, I would say, and you can go in and change various things from all of these different plugins. If you want to test against a very specific vulnerability or something like that. So we're actually going to use the defaults for now. So we would go to scan and click add. Once you've clicked add scan, go ahead and name it. I'm going to name this scan 1. Make sure it says that it's going to run now, and we're going to do an internal network scan. So we're going to scan against our XP host. So that's why I entered that IP address that we found earlier via Nmap. And go ahead and click Launch Scan. So notice under Scans it's here, and also under Reports it's there, but it says that it's running. So if we click our scan and click Browse, it should show us a progress bar with everything that's found so far. We're going to wait until it's finished, and then we can take a look under Reports. So it looks like it's completed. Let's go ahead and select our scan and click Browse. Now notice it found 2 high risk, 2 medium risk, and 18 low risk vulnerabilities. So let's go ahead and click. It shows us kind of the service name that each of these fell under. And we're going to click the CIFS service name because this is where the 2 high severity vulnerabilities are found. Now, these are 2 very common vulnerabilities for a Windows XP machine, and they're both Metasploit usable, so we will actually get into that on the next lab. So thank you for enduring through Lab 1, and I will see you next time.